Hey guys, welcome to AFC News. This is your host Bilal, and Arsenal just drew with Burnley nil-nil at home, and it was a disappointing result for the Gunners who are looking to enter the top four with a win. And you know, it was a frustrating afternoon at the Emirates Stadium. Arteta's side fell to a disappointing defeat to Liverpool last time out as they were eliminated from the Carabao Cup at the semi-final stage with the manager's thin squad laid bare. Having not had a single training session ahead of that game, Tomiyasu struggled, and it certainly has carried over to this Sunday where he was left out of the squad. And in my opinion, he was a big miss for Arsenal because this meant that Ben White had to play out of position. And even though we were expecting Burnley to stay on the defensive during most of the game, which actually did happen, and Rob Holding didn't really have anything much to do. But Tomiyasu is has built a good relation with Saka, and on that right hand side, the communication between the two is really good, and they develop a lot of attacks down that right hand side. So we did really miss Tomiyasu on the right back position, but considering his injury, his early return from injury, he did deserve a rest ahead of this match. And Holding came into central defense with White moving to right back, and this left the midfield, which was already short of so many players. Jaka was suspended. Now Partey's been suspended, and El Neni's away, which meant that, and also Maitland Niles has been has been loaned to AS Roma, um, which means that Lokonga started with Oligard and Emil Smith Row. And obviously, the Arsenal bench was so weak. There was really no one that you would think can come off the bench and turn the game around. Apart from Eddie Nketiah, he's been effective coming off the bench for Arsenal a few times in the past and this season, and but really no one. The most of the bench was made with players from the academy. You had Platino, you had Hutchinson, but no one of that quality whom you could surely depend on. The game played out with Burnley exactly as predicted. Burnley's two banks of four kept spaces to a premium and prevented Arsenal from creating centrally, while they were physically in the tackle and tried to make the most of set pieces. Odegaard came closest for Arsenal when Pope saved his low drive, while Ashley Westwood somehow escaped a second yellow card for a clear obstruction of Gabriel. And I don't know how that's not a second yellow. And obviously, recently you've heard remarks about Xhaka coming out that just because he has that reputation of making that foul, of giving fouls away, of lunging into tackles, been given more. He's been given more of his fair share of yellow cards than he deserves. But there's nothing that we can do about that now. So maybe if it was Xhaka instead of Westwood, he might have received a second yellow. Anyway, the service resumed after the break, and Burnley were frustrating Arsenal. It has to be said. It was like Arsenal was playing against 10 defenders and one keeper. And the defense line was very compact. They weren't really letting us play in the final third, and they were really tight with Martinelli and were closing down Lacazette, not letting him hold up the ball too much. Instead, except for the few times where he uh, linked up play with his first touch, which was the few times that Arsenal could uh, move forward quickly. And mm, try as they might, the goal never came. Arsenal missed a massive opportunity this game. There was a move where Arsenal was going ahead, with three defenders uh, that Burnley had left behind, and Lacazette, Oligard, and Martinelli and Saka were all charging on goal, where Saka took the shot, but it came to nothing. I think that was a really good opportunity where Odegaard could have, instead of giving it to Saka, could have given it to Martinelli with the reverse pass. But I mean, there's that, and obviously the missed chance by Lacazette, which Emil Smith Rowe did really well to create. Keep his head down, kept running, and ran to the byline, pulled the ball back to the edge of the box, to the edge of the keeper's area, and uh, Lacazette should have buried the chance. But it wasn't Lacazette's day. Lacazette hasn't been the most effective in front of goal this season, and it's just too much to expect from this young Arsenal side. And I think it's showing as the season's progressing that the Arsenal team does need a lot of experience, especially in the attacking areas where you've got this 72 million man Pepe, who's not really performed ever since he's been to the club, ever since he's joined the club. There were glimpses, for example, if you remember, he scored under Unai Emery. He scored two free kicks in the 90th or the last 10 minutes of the game to win Arsenal the game. I mean, he's capable of doing something like that. He's capable of beating players. He's going to win his one-on-ones whenever possible. But it's just consistency that comes into question for him. And just because he's so inconsistent, just because he doesn't have the strength to play in the Premier League or to challenge for balls, or that work ethic, or that he uh, pressurizes the players on the ball of the defensive line. That's why he's out of the team, and an 18-year-old Saka is playing in his place. And the same can be said about Martinelli. Just because Aubameyang has had his disciplinary issues, um, is burdening the shoulders of a young 21-year-old. And it's we can't really blame Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe. They're not. They were. It's too much to expect this from them, which is all right. It goes to show that we have a really bright bunch of youngsters in our team, um, probably the best in the league. And you know, if the team is created around them in the future with good experienced players around them, then this team can go places. And obviously, there's this question of squad depth, which Arsenal don't really have. And Arteta, in the post-match press conference, said against for the post-match press conference of Burnley, said that he is looking for recruiting some players, and Arsenal desperately need a proper central midfielder. Odegaard's good, he's good, but Partey is good, but there needs to be that third midfielder. Obviously, Xhaka still divides opinion within the Arsenal community, and if it were to me, I mean, I'd get a good replacement for Xhaka. Even if you don't want to sell him, he's. I get why Arsene Wenger bought him. I get why Unai Emery played him. I get why Arteta plays him. He's a leader in the team. He's a leader in the dressing room. But when it comes to performing, his decision making isn't really the best. Let's give Xhaka the benefit of doubt, because I've seen him make a lot of mistakes in the Switzerland national team too. And if we want to be winning, or if we want to be competing for trophies, winning against the big teams, Xhaka can at times prove to be a liability, despite his incredible passing range. I can vouch for Xhaka that he arguably has the best passing range in the league. I barely see him miss passes. I barely see him make a wrong pass. And obviously, he doesn't have the speed required that a midfielder should have. But Partey doesn't have the same passing range, but Partey helps to make that transition from defense to attack. Partey can turn quickly if Gabriel or Ben White rolls the ball to him. He has the strength and the pace to turn a player and attack the ball, and make that transition from defense to attack. So I think Arsenal definitely need a midfielder, a good reliable midfielder. I mean, Arsenal have for so many years missed uh, a player like Santi Cazorla. I mean, the Santi Cazorla was just an absolute miracle of a signing by Arsene Wenger. I mean, it was a pleasure to watch him. And Cazorla was so smooth on the ball; it was so hard to dispossess him. And he was there to help the defenders, and he was there to create the chances. And he used to score goals as well. Or maybe someone like Ramsey who could be uh, a short-term fix. But Arsenal do need someone in the midfield area so that Oligard can focus on maybe creating chances and doesn't have to defend as much as he is currently doing. And you know, I wish it could be Smith Rowe who completes the three, but Smith Rowe doesn't really uh, feel as much as of a number 10 player as yet. I think Odegaard's ahead of him. And in terms of creating chances, we had Ozil, and Ozil was a really good player, and his vision was second to none. But he lagged defensively. I think Odegaard has the potential of being a very good playmaker. We've seen glimpses, but he tends to sometimes pick the safe pass and doesn't really shoot a lot, just like Ozil. But Ozil's vision was immense. I don't think I've seen better vision than Ozil. Odegaard tends to pick the safe pass, and he just needs to take a little bit of more responsibility and more risk. And obviously, Odegaard is much more hardworking than Ozil. So I mean, Odegaard should be in the team. Partey should be in the team, but there needs to be this midfielder which needs to be there to complement them, or similar, or someone who can play box to box. Maybe like a Yaya Toure, or maybe like a James Milner type of midfielder, or maybe even someone like who's that player? I a Casemiro type of player. Who's just there happy to sit and or maybe a cruise kind of player, just they're happy to sit uh, deep when the team's defending and attack with the team. So I mean, yeah, should a player like that come along, Partey is going to feel more confident, and Odegaard is going to feel more confident. And obviously, Jaga is prone to errors, so Partey and Odegaard won't have to worry about that. And let's assess today's performance. Let's talk about Ramsdale. Ramsdale didn't really have much to do. I mean, we've seen Ramsdale make some little mistakes at times. Of Arsenal hasn't conceded a goal all season from corners, but you saw Ramsdale missing his punch. He accidentally punched the ball onto Holding, and the connection wasn't clean at all. He punched the ball accidentally to Holding's back, and the defenders cleared it away. I mean, he is a little, I wouldn't say prone to errors, but he is a little clumsy at times, which I mean might be just some lack of focus or just some minor misjudgment. But he's been really good for us so far. I mean, obviously, a lot of people questioned us signing him, and he's been really valuable to us, and didn't really have much to do except for the odd shot from Dwight McNeil, which was probably never probably uh, not really troubling for Ramsdale. I mean, it was an easy save for him. Apart from that, his footwork was, he uh, took touches when he had time. He released the ball um, fairly accurately, and didn't really have. You can't really say much about him. Then there is obviously Ben White. I mean, Ben White's passing range, his diagonal balls are tremendous. He hit so many diagonal balls. His distribution was so clean. Two particularly Martinelli, but obviously sometimes I think Ben White misjudges, and when you need to calm the temper down, because obviously you don't want Saka and Martinelli to be chasing every ball, because they're already pressurizing the defensive back line, and then Ben White comes in with all these long balls. So sometimes I think it's better to play. Uh, it's sometimes I think not every time should Ben White look to play a long ball. Sometimes he should just pass the ball to maybe Lokonga or Saka. And Ben White has been an amazing signing as well, and he's really helped the team. Um, um, he won an important free kick for Arsenal. Unfortunately, it didn't turn to goal, and you know it does goes to show that if Tomiyasu is injured and if Chambers isn't really fitting well, then Ben White can play at the right back position, and we've even seen him play at in central midfield for Brighton. So I mean, I think overall people were questioning the value for Ben White, but he's gone to show that he is um, willing to put in the hard work to justify that price tag. And I mean, it wasn't his fault that Arsenal paid so much for him, because Brighton were asking for so much money. And I mean, it was a reasonable performance from Ben White. Now let's talk about the one of the centre backs, Rob Holding. Um, on the ball, obviously he wasn't really dangerous, and I mean, all he did was pass to White or Gabriel. But he did deal with lots of balls in the air, and he won a lot of his duels. Um, Balls which were thrown in towards Rodriguez, he kept him contained, and put in a strong performance in place of Ben White, because Ben replacing Ben White is obviously Ben White had to move out of position, but replacing White is a big job. And Rob Holding, during the time that he's been with Arsenal, he was recruited by Arsene Wenger, of course. And there's this famous quote by Arsene Wenger that he once said to the reporters that I'm sorry that Rob Holding didn't cost 50 million, because obviously if he did, you'd be talking so much about him. And he is right. Rob Holding isn't the worst of defenders, isn't the best either, but he's good. He doesn't make as many errors as maybe Maguire does, and look at Maguire's price tag. And he gets the job done at times, and is at times we've seen his weaknesses, but today I probably he because he didn't really have much to do, but he still was very professional. He did his job, and at the end, if it was a clean sheet, I mean, he'd be happy, but obviously he'd be more happy with the win. Let's talk about Gabriel. Um, he also dealt with everything that was thrown at him, but and there was this chance that the ball was going out of the Burnley box into touch, but Gabriel slided and kept the ball in play. I think that was in the final 15 minutes. I mean, that shows how dedicated Gabriel is, and we've seen it in the past. Obviously, Gabriel got a red card at City, which really shot Arsenal in the foot. But today Gabriel was did his job really well, and some people were blaming him for the goals conceded against Liverpool, but I think he's one of our reliable defenders that we've had over the past years. He's a good center back, and he has a good relationship with White. Uh, so yeah, I mean, he didn't really have much to do. He'd be happy with a clean sheet, but obviously he'd be more happy with the 3 points. Um, Now let's talk about Kieran Tierney. Of course, some poor decision making in attacking areas was one of the key issues for Arsenal, and Tierney often opting for the wrong type of delivery when found in space down the left hand side. Um, Tierney played a lot of crosses in, and none of them reached an Arsenal defender, Arsenal attacker, probably because Burnley had so many players defending in the box, and it was really difficult to find space for the likes of Lacazette, Martinelli, and Saka. But uh, I think Tavares attacks more than Tierney. Obviously, Tavares is not so reliable defensively, but I think Tierney can attack more because he has that capacity to recover the ball, to run back. Um, but I mean, it wasn't the worst of performances from Tierney, but it wasn't his best either. I think he could link up better with Lacazette, Martinelli, and Oligard, and he had that shot which he side-footed one, the one that ricocheted to him from uh, the one that Lacazette passed to him. Um, he chose to side foot it from a very difficult angle, an angle where you'd probably hit the ball from the outside of the foot. But you know, I think he could have put his foot through the ball in that moment because he has a hammer of a left foot, and he chose against it. But it's all right. What's gone is gone. Not the worst of games, but he'd be happy with the clean sheet, but obviously he'd be more happy with the 3 points. That summarizes Arsenal defense. Happy with the clean sheet, but more happy with the 3 points. Now let's talk about Lokonga. Lokonga obviously uh, has been chosen because Arsenal has been lacking in midfield options as of late. Xhaka suspended, Partey suspended, Maitland Niles off to Roma, and Lenny off to Africa. And when Lokonga came in, we I remember people were saying so many bright things about him, that Vincent Company and Roberto Martinez and Thierry Henry, who are all associated with the Belgian national team, said that Lokonga is one of the best players Belgium has produced in a while, and he's fairly young, so we should not really expect too much from him now and not put too much pressure on him, because in the early games of the season he was really looking very well. But obviously, this is the Premier League where games come thick and fast, and you need to be on your best every single match, and people judge you on each performance. And at your next performance, they forget what you've done in your last performance. So you have to be really good each match. And I think as games have progressed, you've seen Lukonga um, become more defensive minded, um, become less risk taking, because I've seen him played more back passes than I've seen Jorginho probably, or maybe I El Neni plays a lot of back passes, but Partey plays a lot of forward passes when he has the option to. But if El Neni was given the same options, he'll probably play a back pass. If you, I mean, this is a joke. If you put El Neni through on goal one on one, he'll play a back pass. He won't shoot. I don't know why El Neni is like this. And Lukonga has become a little passive um, in recent weeks, probably because he's not been getting as much game time as he would have liked. But you know, um, with neither of the dual number 10s in support, it left Sambi with no options other than feeding the ball wide. Uh, Smith Rowe wasn't really there to support Lokonga, and Odegaard was often not there to support him. It was a difficult afternoon for him, but he needed to be braver to play through the middle of the pitch. And we can say he didn't try a lot, but we'd be. I think much of his criticism will come that his he'll be criticized because he doesn't really um, facilitate the transition from defense to attack. But I think some of our criticism might be unjust, because if Lokonga loses the ball, you have Smith Rowe, you have Odegaard, who are basically attack-minded players, and they will obviously be for more farther than more farther to goal than Lokonga. And if Lokonga loses the ball, Odegaard and Smith Rowe are less likely to recover the ball quickly or provide support to the defenders. So it's understandable that Sammy Lokonga was playing passively. He didn't want to lose the ball in important spaces and give Burnley a free goal. But he still has a lot of time, and we're hoping to convert him to a very good midfielder. Now let's talk about Martin Odegaard. He was arguably Arsenal's best player in my opinion, and he led the charge with his consistent demanding of the ball. Odegaard was Arsenal's liveliest player of the day, trying to take Arsenal into gear, and the Norwegian was moving players about the pitch, instigating matters, tracking ball, and pressing off the ball. And he obviously took a free kick which rippled the top of the net. Um, he could have done, uh, he could have taken some shots, I think, but he chose to pass the ball. I think in the moment where Arsenal were charging on Burnley's goal, where it was 3 Burnley defenders versus 4 Arsenal players, he could have given the ball to Martinelli instead of Saka, because not once did I see Saka um, bring the ball to his left and test Nick Pope. There was this one shot where he uh, out of the box where he mm, forced a save out of Nick Pope, but it was more of a team effort. So yeah, I mean, Odegaard has been really bright, and with these games coming thick and fast, he's stayed injury free, which is really good for Arsenal, and he's putting in consistent performances, which is very good from an Arsenal perspective. And probably when you think about Arsenal's midfield players in the past, if you could compare Odegaard to one, you'd probably compare him to Cesc Fabregas, because he has that vision, that mindset of playing with everybody, communicating with everyone, and demanding the ball, and trying to dictate play. Um, but Odegaard's still young, and we hope that he builds on this, because he's highly regarded um, in Norway, and Real Madrid signed him as a 16-year-old, calling him the Wonder Kid, and he has people have high expectations from Odegaard, and I think because Odegaard has felt a lot of pressure because of this. But since signing with Arsenal permanently, he's been living up to, or he's moving towards reaching that potential. So yeah, it was a really good performance from Odegaard. Just disappointed that nothing concrete came of his gameplay. But yeah, that's football, I guess. Now let's talk about Emil Smith Rowe. I mean, nowhere near his peak fitness, Smith Rowe lacked the intensity a match of this style required. He wasn't quite on it, like against Liverpool, and needed to come shorter to help with central progression. To his credit, that Arsenal changed after the break as he stepped up the tempo when moved out to the left, showed more aggression with and without the ball, and was involved in Arsenal's best moments. sometimes you feel about Smith Rowe. Sometimes you feel about Smith Rowe that he's not um, doing enough. He's not getting forward enough. But then there was this move where he went to the byline and cut the ball back to Lacazette, and Lacazette missed an open goal. I mean, that is peak Smith Rowe. That is what you want to see, him running at defenders, beating them with determination and strength. And he is one of the few Arsenal midfielders who actually take a shot when it is there for the taking. Obviously, his shots were blocked because Burnley had so many players in the box. But credit to him for um, playing without being match fit, because we Arsenal is obviously short of midfielders. Smith Rowe, can is obviously one for the future. He's still young, and it's probably because of Arsenal's lack of recruitment that these young players are being put under so much pressure. So yeah, that's um, let's resume about the strikers. Um, let's talk about Bukayo Saka. He was obviously playing at the right wing. Odegaard may have been the most lively, but it was Saka who was the most dangerous. If there was going to be a spark in the game, it would come from either of his boots, and the battle between him and Peters was one he almost always won. Clearly started flagging as the game wore on. I mean, Saka was really good, um, but I think at times he was being uh, too much depended on, and most of Arsenal's moves are coming on the right because Martinelli was contained well by uh, the Burnley right back who was making his first first start, I think. And Saka has performed really well for Arsenal, and he's the youngest of Arsenal's young players who are coming through. And there was this chance where Lacazette passed the ball to him from the middle of the box, which Saka um, moved the ball, where Saka moved the ball onto his left foot, and he couldn't beat the keeper. And there was also this one chance that went just wide of the post when Saka tried to curl it into the far post. So I mean, he's the one who's trying to make the keeper work. He's trying to be more direct than probably someone like Odegaard, and that is what we expect from him. But um, while the defenders did their job of a clean sheet, the attackers could not, which is why Saka will be disappointed that Arsenal are not taking away 3 points from this game that everyone expected Arsenal will win. Now let's talk about Gabriel Martinelli, who huffed and puffed down the left side and came up against an impressive Connor Roberts, who will have been pleased with his full Premier League debut for the club. And Martinelli, we've seen how Martinelli saw loads of the ball cut, but couldn't quite make it count. We've seen Martinelli perform really well in the past few games, but obviously, um, it was tough for anyone to break down Burnley tonight because I mean, either it was their day or they were just really well drilled by Sean Dyche today. And I mean, if Arsenal went to a big club away to someone like Manchester City or maybe Liverpool and put in some this kind of a defensive display, I think we would have been very happy. But you know, talking about Martinelli, he didn't really win any one-on-ones as far as I can remember, and we have high expectations from him, but he's been playing consistently. He needs to get a rest, and we need to have that squad depth because obviously Aubameyang and Pepe aren't featuring, and we need to have that squad depth. Now let's talk about Alexander Lacazette. I mean, what can you even say? Um, he's the senior player in the team, and he's being the role model because Aubameyang is not there, because Xhaka is being suspended, because Partey is suspended. He has to lead this young bunch of players, and he'd be gutted because he missed a huge chance, and um, he missed a very good chance in the last match versus mm, Liverpool as well, and his link-up play wasn't really seen as much as we've seen recently. But we don't really have much of another option. We have Eddie and Ketia, um, but there's a huge difference in the physicality of Nketiah and Lacazette. And Lacazette has so much more experience than him. But it just wasn't his day. Maybe and he didn't have his shooting boots on. But what's done is done, and now I think the team should look forward to their next match, which is obviously 18 days later. And this will give a good time for Arteta's team to recoup and for um, probably um, El Neni to return for um, the next match, and then let's see what Arsenal make do in this coming transfer window. We're hearing rumors about Vlahovic, hearing rumors about Arthur from Juventus, but let's see from Juventus. But let's see what happens, because we really need to recruit players, but we only need players who can make this team better. We don't want players because we want players who will hit the ground running for the course of this season that is left. We want Our ambitions are high. We want to finish in the top four. We want to win our matches, and we're out of all the cups, and we only have the Premier League to focus on. So I mean, we have big expectations from Arteta and the recruiting staff from Edu, and let's see what happens next. It was a frustrating day for us fans, but let's see. Um, we'll bring in more transfer news as they come. This is AFC News. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and um, see you next time with the latest Arsenal FC news. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode, a continuation of our last conversation about the play rating versus of Arsenal versus Burnley, and now let's move on to the latest transfer news surrounding Arsenal. So yesterday, Sky Italy just broke the news that Fiorentina have agreed, or in principle have agreed, a deal to let Dusan Vlahovic, which has been targeted by Arsenal for a long time now, that is going to be signed by Juventus, and it's a pity for Arsenal to lose out on a player like that who's young, because Arsenal has been building that young core of footballers which have been coming through the academy and through recruitment, and Dusan Vlahovic would have fit in right very smoothly and would have been a good replacement for Lacazette or Aubameyang. So, I mean, it looks like he's going to move to Juventus, and Arsenal will have lost out on their man. And to be honest, this is a big blow for Arsenal, and I don't really see any other striker who's of that quality in the market available right now. I mean, there were links of maybe a possible, I think it was the Daily Mail, but obviously the Daily Mail is not as credible as Sky Sports, who were reporting that Alexis Sanchez would be interested in a return to Arsenal, but I think that's unlikely as well. Apart from that, because Arsenal is really short of players up front because it looks like Aubameyang will not be returning anytime soon to the squad, and Lacazette is nearing the end of his contract, and Nketiah is nearing the end of his contract. Nketiah is not signing a new one. Lacazette is not being handed the terms that he wants. Lacazette wants to stay for 2 years, whereas Arsenal is only for 3 years, whereas Arsenal is only giving him 2 years and probably 1 year extra on performance based if he performs well during the 2 years. So games are coming thick and fast. Obviously, right now Arsenal have a break, and it's an 18-day break from their Burnley game till they play next, and it is a welcome break because I think by the time uh, Arsenal's next match happens, a lot of players would have recovered. Tomiyasu will be back, and obviously we'll still miss out on Xhaka and Partey, who are both suspended. And yeah, Arsenal are really short of players right now. They need a striker really bad. There are 5 days left in the January transfer window. Let's see what Arteta and Edu and the recruitment staff are up to. There's been no concrete links up till now. We've been hearing about the recruitment of a midfielder. We've been hearing about probably recruiting Arthur Melo from Juventus because he's not been getting the game time that he wants, and um, even though Allegri has came out and said that he isn't interested in selling any players of his squad, but Arthur can suit Arteta's style also because he's a good midfielder who keeps the possession of the ball, who can play in closed spaces, and can help in playing out from the back and probably replace Xhaka in the first team because Arsenal fans aren't really happy with Xhaka. But I have to say, if there's something about Xhaka, then which works in the favor of Xhaka is that when Arsene Wenger recruited him, Arsene Wenger started him consistently. He also started consistently under Unai Emery, and he also starts consistently when he's obviously available for playing and not suspended. He also starts consistently under Arteta. So Xhaka is obviously a leader in the dressing room, but he also needs to step up on the pitch. He needs to make better decisions and not go into challenges as wildly as he does sometimes. Um, Arthur Melo, people want Ramsey to come back because obviously Ramsey hasn't really had the best of times at Juventus, even though he's got an exceptional contract. But if Ramsey is interested in game time, I think he would want to return um, from Juventus to Arsenal. Talking about the striker position again, people are talking about Alexander Isak, and I don't know if he's the right fit for Arsenal. He plays for Real Sociedad and is pretty young. He's from Sweden. He's pretty young, but does he have the physicality and skills to adapt in the Premier League? I think we need a proven goal scorer at this point who can help us because it's the business end. The business end of the season will come soon, and Arsenal need to finish in Champions League spot because that is what our aim is. We're out of the Carabao Cup. We lost to Liverpool in the second leg of the semi-finals, and we're also out of the uh, FA Cup. We lost in the fifth round to Nottingham Forest. On the third round to Nottingham Forest. So there's only one thing that we can focus on right now, and that is probably the thing that works in our favor the most is that each game we prepare for is for the Premier League, and Obviously, we want to be in the Champions League. We've not played in the Champions League for 6 years now. So, now let's move on ahead. Talking about the transfer window again, there's no really links right now to Arsenal. I mean, Sky Sports did report yesterday that Arsenal want Luka Jovic on loan if the Dusan Vlahovic move fails. Obviously, the Dusan Vlahovic move is bound for failure because Vlahovic has chosen to stay in the Italian league with probably the best Italian side. Despite Juventus' position, you can't question their history of winning trophies and winning and dominating Serie A. But Luka Jovic, obviously, the transfer, he's a Real Madrid player. The transfer to Real Madrid did not really work out. He doesn't really get the game time because Benzema is in superb form. So Arsenal could seek a short-term loan for Luka Jovic if they cannot persuade Vlahovic to join them this month. Obviously, the Vlahovic deal is not official yet. It's even though it's Sky Sports reporting it, it's not official till it's official. Contracts might have been signed, contracts might have not been signed, but the interest from Juventus is more concrete than Arsenal's. And even though Arsenal, even though if a bid was accepted by Fiorentina for Dusan Vlahovic by Arsenal, it's up to the player and his agent at the end if they want to move to Arsenal or not. So it looks like the player has decided against that and chosen to stay in the Italian league and move to Juventus. Talking about Dusan Vlahovic, talking about Luka Jovic, sorry, Luka Jovic, he came from Shakhtar Donetsk to Real Madrid and hasn't had the best of times. But he could be a good fit for Arsenal. Things could work out for him at Arsenal if he is fit, because he will obviously get the game time because Arsenal is short of strikers at the moment, and you don't know if probably things could work for him at Arsenal because they did for Oligard, who also came from Real Madrid for a 6-month loan, and then Arsenal ended up signing him. So it could be that Luka Jovic, if he performs well, there might be an obligation to buy at the end of the deal. So that could be beneficial. And if there's one position that Arsenal need to strengthen in the squad, it is the striker position because Arsenal are short of players up front. You can look at the right wing position. You've got a 72 million man who's not performing, who's been replaced by a 19-year-old kid, Saka. I mean, Pepe, the moves. If you look at it, if you look at his contribution since he's been at Arsenal, it's been minimal, which would be the right word. And it's his fourth year, it's his third year now, and we were expecting more from him, and he hasn't developed right physicality that is required for the Premier League. And he's good on his one-on-ones. He's good at beating players. He's good at dribbling the ball, taking on defenders. But Saka is equally good, and Saka also does pressurize defenders. He doesn't mind defending. These things you don't really expect Pepe to do, which is why probably Arteta places more trust on Saka than Pepe. And then there's Martinelli, who's having a great run in that side, and obviously he had been discouraged by a lot of injuries in the past, but now since Aubameyang is out of the squad, Martinelli is making the most of it, and it's great to see these young players step up when they needed to. So there needs to be more experience in the front line, though despite this team being young. People were talking about Bruno Guimaras, who um, who is a Brazilian and has strong or a friendship with Edu and could end at Arsenal. He's very talented. He's young and could be that if the Arthur deal does not work out, Arsenal could go and get Bruno Guimaras. And there was also a rumor of obviously Ian Wright expressed his desire for Arsenal to sign Georgino Wijnaldum, and he'd be a good signing in my opinion because he knows the Premier League, he knows the physicality of it. He's won trophies with Liverpool, and he would adjust into the squad better than someone like Arthur would, in my opinion, and would help the squad. He's not been getting enough game time at PSG, even though PSG is playing in the Champions League right now, and Wijnaldum wouldn't really want to play uh, because PSG intends to win the Champions League. So why would Wijnaldum want to play in a side that isn't really playing any European football at the moment? So yeah, that is all for today, guys. Hope to see you soon. Hope for Arsenal to sign more players. This is AFC News. See you next time.